Wow, that was a really great presentation by Dr. Bichelle. So now that we understand the power of this data, I'm going to turn it over to Nuala Summerfield. Nuala is the founder and chair of the Schinzel-Giedion Syndrome Foundation, the only organization that is representing the international SGS community. As a practicing veterinary surgeon for more than 20 years, Nuala has been involved in both clinical practice and in clinical research studies. As a clinician and a scientist, Nuala understands the need to practice evidence-based medicine founded on scientifically rigorous studies. However, as a parent of a child with SGS, she also understands the desperation of parents and the families to have research move more quickly from the laboratory to the clinic and to accelerate the development of effective therapies for rare diseases. Having listened to Dr. Bichelle's great talk on the importance of collecting patient data, it's very clear why we need this patient registry for SGS to help us learn more about the condition and understand which symptoms are important. I think we're all very interested to hear about the SGS registry platform. So Nuala, I'm going to hand it over to you now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if you'll share your screen, that would be great.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think Terry-Jo, I mean, her talk was, I find listening to her really inspirational. What I love most is the fact that she has the perspective of a researcher because she's a neuroscientist, but also of a rare disease parent because her son has Angelman syndrome. So I think she can look at it from a really balanced point of view and understand I suppose the fact that parents were time poor, and so having to do these things like answering questionnaires and being part of the registry may seem like a bit of a hassle, but as she said, this is our way of making a difference to our children and helping researchers and doctors to understand SGS so that we can all move towards new treatments for our children. And wouldn't it be amazing if in 5 years' time, we had a therapy that delayed the progression of SGS. And once we got a diagnosis earlier, we could get these, because many kids now are diagnosed within their first, definitely within their first 6 months of life, and some very much earlier than that. So if we could get a targeted treatment for these kids and actually halt the disease or delay any kind of progression or deterioration, we could make an enormous difference to both the child and the family. So this is what we really need to focus on. So I think Terry-Jo made a great point that when we talk about a registry, it really is a one point in time. And I think maybe as a foundation, we'll can reconsider maybe naming this slightly differently, because we're trying to get everybody onto the registry as a starting point. That means that everybody registers their child. And so we can say at this point in time, we have these men that have been diagnosed with Schinzel-Giedion syndrome. And once everybody's registered, then the plan is we want to follow these children over time. Obviously, for children who have passed, that won't be possible, but still their single time point data is incredibly important, as Terry-Jo said. And for children that are still living, we want to follow these children over time so we can see how they do progress from birth to 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years, and what do we see? And then we can look at what genetic mutation they have and see whether any specific mutations are associated with sort of different progression. So we probably will do some education around the fact that the patient registry is actually a natural history study. The plan is to track or follow these children over time and collect natural history, or the natural history of the disease. So what we wanted to do was to give all of the SGS community a step-by-step guide through our registry platform and how we're going to use this to collect natural history data. We launched the SGS registry a couple of months ago, and some people have signed up, but we have been given feedback that it's a bit overwhelming because it's an unfamiliar platform, and also language is an issue, and we're working hard, and we'll talk about that on translations so that we can actually have the registry available in different languages. But what we're going to do now is actually just walk you through the registry platform and show you that actually it's very straightforward. and then talk to you about how we're very happy to, walk you through one-to-one over Zoom to get you up and running on the platform. So we'll start by just, as I said, talking about how you request access. So this is, you don't have a login at all, you've never joined the registry, so how to request access from our website, how to create something called a clinical research ID or CRID for your child. And really all of our children should have this. And this is because we are on the Matrix platform collecting survey data, but it would be really good in the future to be linking that survey data or health data perhaps with EEGs or MRI studies or doctor's reports. And if we label all of these different bits of information with this unique number that your child has, even if the information is de-identified so that it protects your privacy, so nobody knows that it's your child's data, you have a unique number that then means that everything can be linked up but still remain de-identified. So that's really important to create that CRID, and we'll show you how to do that. It takes 2 minutes. We'll then show you how to log into the SGS registry for the first time. And this does take a little bit of time to go through all the terms of use and the informed consent for yourself and your child and enter your demographic information. But as I said, we can, as trustees, we can walk you through this and get you up and running so that once we've been through all of that the first time, you don't have to do it every time you log in. You just go in and fill in your survey. We'll show you how to fill in the first 3 kind of basic surveys, and we'll show you how to upload your child's genetic report. So the first thing you need to do, if you haven't already got a patient registry account, is go to our website. So that's www.sgsfoundation.org, and then there's a registry page which you can see in the navigation bar. And if you click on that and scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will see a little tab or a little button that you can click that says request access. Once you request access, you will then come to this page, and you'll just need to fill in some basic information about yourself. So your name, your email address, your mobile phone number, date of birth. This is so that we can contact you. You'll then just confirm that you're over 18 and that whether you're located in the US or outside of the US. And for us, as Schinzel-Giedion syndrome, we won't have any of our children participating by themselves. So really the 2 buttons that, or the 2 little boxes that you would choose one of would be the bottom 2, either that you're a parent or caregiver participant answering the surveys on behalf of a child that's currently alive, or that you're a parent who's lost a loved one, parent or caregiver who's lost a loved one, and so you'll be answering on behalf of that child. And then you click sign up at the bottom. Now what? So what happens then is that an email will be sent to the email you provided. You'll open that email and it'll ask you to verify your account and create a password. And now you're ready to log in and get started. Before you log in for your first time to the registry, I would advise that you go and create a CRID. And that's because then you'll have it on hand for when you're in the registry and ready to add it. So how do you create a CRID? Well, you go to this website here, which is www.thecrid.org, and you'll see there on the home page, it has a little button saying create an account. Click on that, and it literally takes 2 minutes. You put in your child's name, date of birth, and I think a few other little details, and then it gives you this unique number. And so this shows you what a CRID looks like. It's this sort of 8-digit unique number that's completely unique to you or to your child. Sorry, this is a CRID for your child. You can create one for yourself as well, but we're using it here for your child's health information. You can also print off this little card as well. And if you were to take part in any other, or your child was to take part in any other clinical studies, you could ask them to add the CRID to that blood sample that you donate, or the skin biopsy, or any other sort of surveys that you filled in, and that way that information could be pulled into the registry or natural history study for your child, because it can be tracked with the CRID. So once you have your CRID, write it down or print off that little card, and now you're ready to go into the registry and log in for the first time. So you click the login button, so you go back to our website, And now you're going to click the login button, which is above the request access button. And you'll come to this page. And so you're going to enter your email address, and that's the email address that you used to sign up in the first place, and the password that you created. Then you'll go into a terms of use, and this is, you only have to fill this in once, just the first time that you go into the Matrix platform. And it's really just terms of use like you would have to sign with any new software that you were going to use, essentially. So you just scroll down to the bottom once you've had a read through and click accept. And then it will take you to the consent. Now, the reason that we have consent is because we're collecting health information, and it's important that, and this is obviously it's a study, it's a research study, because we want to collect this natural history information over time for the children with SGS, so that we can, I suppose, reap all the benefits that Terry Jo talked about, helping to understand the disease better, what happens at different time points, the effect of the mutation, what drugs and medications could be useful for these children. So that is a research study, and therefore best practice means that we need to you need to be consented. Now, sometimes informed consent forms can seem a bit dense, a bit difficult to understand. Again, that is what we as trustees are here for. We've done something called city training, which allows us to actually go through informed consent with families and explain the consent form in detail. So because we've done this specialist training to be able to do that, we're very happy to talk you through the informed consent and make sure that you understand all the different aspects of that. When you get to the bottom of the consent form, and I should say with any of these informed consents, you can withdraw from the registry or the natural history study at any time. You're not tied in. This is completely voluntary. When you get down to the bottom of the consent form, it will ask you, to give your permission to participate in the study and complete online surveys. You need to click yes to that to continue. Then it'll ask you, would you be willing for us to contact you about video interviews potentially as part of studies, and you don't have to say yes to that, but if you say yes, we'll contact you. That again does not it does not commit you to being involved. So it just means that we would contact you to ask if you wanted to be. But the top one here is I suppose it's a very important one. If you don't click yes, that means that you're not willing to sign or to fill in online surveys. Then that's a natural history study, so that wouldn't then allow you to be part of the registry. If you click yes to that, you don't have to click yes to these ones, but ideally click yes to all of these, and any other studies that come up, it's just saying that we'll contact you about them, and then what we're doing as part of the Schinzel-Giedion Syndrome Foundation and any research that's going on, and you can then say yes or no if you want to be involved. So then once you've done that, you click next at the end, and then you've gone through the informed consent for yourself. Then it will ask you to fill in some basic demographic information. You only have to do the informed consent for yourself and the demographic information the first time that you log on to the registry. Once you've filled in your demographic information, you will then come to this screen, and this is your caregiver dashboard. So this is my dashboard here. And the next step is to add your child, because obviously this registry or natural history study is about your child. We may ask questions about carers and or parents and caregivers in future, but at the moment we're focused on the child, so we need to add the child. And on the registry platform, your child is called a patient, so you need to add patient, and again, you're only doing this the first time that you go in. So then you'll be asked to say if your child is still living or if your child has passed away. The reason for that is if your child is still living, we'll need to do an informed consent for your child. And if your child has passed away, you don't need to go through that extra consenting process. So you tick whichever box applies to you, and then you click complete. So as I said, if your child is living, you will come to exactly the same form that you filled in for yourself. So you'll be familiar with it. It doesn't say anything different second time around, but it's for your child, not for yourself. Okay. So the first one was making sure you understood what was involved in sharing health information about your child. And then, as I said, the second one is for your child. So you read through that, you scroll down to the bottom, and you're going to come to the last section, which is slightly different. It'll say, I'm a parent or guardian providing parental permission on behalf of my child to participate in this study. Okay, so that's the option you're going to click, because for our children are not likely to be over 18. So our children are going to be under 18. So it's going to be this top option. And then again, you want to click yes to completing online surveys, and ideally yes to these other options, but the sort of critical one you need to click yes to is the top one here. Then you click next. And before you click next, you have to sign the bottom of the form, and it's an electronic signature. So you put your child's name in, your name and the date, and then you'll click next. And again, you're only doing this the first time. Then you've done all the informed consenting, that's all done. You fill in your child's demographic information. And once you've done that, that's it. You're on the registry at that point. That's all the hard work done. And that is what we can do very easily and quickly over a Zoom call. Very happy to do that one-to-one with any of you that would like some help, doing that, just to get you through that process, so that doesn't become a barrier to getting up and running. Because once you're in there and you're up and running, then you can start, having a look around and having a look at the surveys. So now that we have done all that sort of initial thing and you've added your child, we can access their dashboard, because you can see here, this is my dashboard as Ophelia's caregiver. So if I go to this little plus icon at the end of the line here, I can access her dashboard. If you have another child with SGS, and this might be the case if you had siblings with SGS, or such as twins, then you could add a second child at this point as well. So you would just click add patient again, and then you would have 2 children with Schinzel-Giedion syndrome here. So now that you're on your child's dashboard, and you can see the dashboard here, you have lots of options. And because we want everybody to get onto the registry and just get familiar with it to start with, we're only going to focus on a few things. Once everybody's up and running and happy with the platform, we can then kind of explore some of the other features that the platform has. And the platform has a lot of features we can use, but we don't want people to get overwhelmed initially. If you're quite techy and you like looking around, please do. But initially, we're going to just have a look at surveys, which you can see here. So you filled in your child's general information here. So the next thing on the list is survey studies. So you will find when you go into the registry for the first time, 3 surveys. These are our 3 first surveys. So we're going to click on the first one, which says additional patient IDs. It's saying here it's going to take you 2 to 4 minutes to complete. If you have already got your CRID, this will take you 10 seconds to complete, because all you're doing is really adding in your CRID at this point. There are a few other ID numbers you could add, but if you click start, then it will open up that survey for you. So additional patient ID, and this is where it says, does the patient have a clinical research ID? So rather than having to open up the CRID website in a different browser and work it out, then if you've done it beforehand, all you do is you click yes and you add it. Now, if you are if you have something called a GUID, which is, I can't remember what the G stands for, but unique identifier. So it's another unique identifying number. You could add that. Lower down, if you scroll down, I think I added in Ophelia's NHS number, which is something specific to the UK. You might have a European patient ID number to add. You can definitely add those. The critical one is the CRID. And you can come back and add in these others if you don't have them to hand afterwards. But please add the CRID when you're doing this first walkthrough. And I said, if you haven't done it before, just go to open up a different browser, make your CRID, and then you'll be able to pop it into the registry. Okay, so the next one on our list was other names survey. And this is essentially just asking if your child has ever had any other name, so that any medical information could be pulled potentially, or reports, etc., from your child when they had a different name. Let's say if you adopted your child, or they changed their surname, etc., if you remarried. So that's an important one to fill in, and that's just a yes or no. And then this is the kind of, I suppose this is our first head-to-toe survey. So this is the ClinGen survey that Terry Jo spoke about, and it's what we call a level 1. So it's kind of the sort of highest level, broadest survey about health and development. Okay, and then depending on what you tick as you go through, you will then receive specific surveys for different symptoms such as neurology, skin issues, gut issues, etc. later on. But right now, this survey, and this is why it's so quick to fill in, is essentially just asking you very basic questions. So it's going to ask you, have you had a genetic test? Yes, no. And then it'll go through and it'll ask you things like, does your child have bone, cartilage, and connective tissue issues? If you click yes, then what you'll find is when you finish that head to toe survey and you go back and you think, oh, phew, I finished my 3 surveys now, you actually see a list of all the different specific surveys. But that's fine. You don't need to fill them in all at that point. You can come back to them, because next time when you log into the registry to fill in these surveys, you don't have to go through all of the terms of use and the consenting and the demographic information. That's done. So when you log in, you go straight into your dashboard. So then you can say, okay, maybe today I fill in this first survey. Maybe you aim to do a couple a week. And with the foundation, what we're going to try to do is, once we've got as many people as possible actually onboarded into the registry, we're going to start trying to encourage people to fill these surveys in, so that we've got that baseline data, and then when everybody's filled their surveys in, we can release those surveys again in 6 months' time. And that's how we collect this natural history, so we're understanding how the disease progresses over time, because maybe things in 6 months or a year, and we need to track that. So I've got quite a few that I need to go back and fill in. And then the other thing that we'd really like you to do when you first go in and register is upload your genetic report, if you have that. So ideally it would be a PDF copy, but it could be a photo or a scanned copy. If you don't have it, but your child has had a genetic test, please do request it from your doctor or geneticist, because it's really important to have that information in the registry, because we know from our Facebook group, family Facebook group, that some children with certain mutations seem to have certain symptoms more severely than others, and some might have symptoms that are a bit milder than others, and some seem to get cancer and others don't. We need to work that out in a much more scientific way than just our sort of hunch from looking at posts. And this is why we need that genetic information, and then we can compare that with the data, the health data or information that's filled in, and really start to understand what the specific mutation means for the individual child. And then we'll be able to give parents much better guidance on what to expect. And then that has other important ramifications. So what should they be screening for? Are there some mutations that mean we should be screening more for cancers than others? These are all things we don't know yet. We need to find this information out from this registry and the natural history data that we collect. So the way you fill in your genetic report is, or you upload your genetic report, is you go to documents. So just go down your list here, go to documents, click upload, okay? And then it will take you to, just as you would upload a document, in any other sort of program, you click on upload, find your genetic test on your computer or phone, and then just upload it. And then it will store it in the documents. Okay, so here's my daughter's genetic test stored, and that way it's there. And then what we have a feature to be able to do on the Matrix platform is that can be tagged, and then a geneticist, so a genetic specialist, can actually take the genetic information from the report and put it onto a survey, if you like, so that that can be easily compared with other survey data, because as you know, lots of genetic reports have different formats. It's sometimes hard to work out what mutation your child has. Trying to interpret genetic reports is difficult. So the foundation can collect these, and they can be linked obviously with the CRID, and then a genetic specialist can put the genetic information onto a survey and make sure that's available in the registry as well, so that the genetic information is clear. So that is really all we're asking families to do at this point. Not to worry about filling in all the surveys that are available. Please feel free if you want to, if you're in a role, fantastic. But really just requesting access, making a CRID, going in for the first time, doing your terms of use and your informed consenting for yourself and your child, adding your information, and then filling out those 3 basic surveys and uploading your genetic report. If you don't have your genetic report to hand and have to request it, that's fine. You can upload it at a different time. But those are really key things. If we could get a significant number or proportion of our families to do that, we'd have so much information. And the other amazing thing about the Matrix platform is that we can then go in, and if you have a question, our families, obviously, we love to ask each other questions on the Facebook page. What medication works best for your child's seizures? There's questions recently about urinary catheterization for recurrent urinary tract infections or bladder catheterization, using CBD oil for epilepsy. These are questions that we can ask the platform essentially, and actually then get data not just from 1 or 2 children, but actually be able to pull data and say, of the 20 or 30 or 40 children that have been registered on the platform, how many of them are having catheterization, and what's the benefit of that? How many of them have tried CBD oil, and did they have THC, and what doses, and did this really improve their seizures? So the data is so much more powerful, and this is what we want to be able to get and share back with families. It really will help, and obviously you can share it with your doctors. Researchers and doctors can request the de-identified data if they want to do studies or publish the information. So please, please, please do get involved. Please, take the time to get started. We are working on translations. So the plan is that by November we'll have the whole platform translated, including the terms of use and the informed consents, and all the ClinGen surveys, into not only English but Spanish, German, French, and Italian. And then obviously that's phase 1, and moving forward into phase 2, we'll need to look at other languages that our families speak as their first language, and we want as many people involved as possible. So for us to translate into Portuguese, Chinese, Polish, Russian, these are all things that we need your feedback to know what you need, so we can get you up and running on the registry. If you need help getting started, no problem at all. As I said, please drop us an email and we will get in touch, arrange a video call, and we can walk you through and get you started. So I haven't left you a lot of time for questions, but please, if you have any questions, please do ask.
There is one question, Nuala. So is there a timeline that the foundation has for wanting folks, families, parents to get onto the registry and fill out this information? Do we have a goal?
It would be amazing if we could have, let's say, 20 families on by the end of the year. That would be incredible, I think. We have 200 plus people in our, I think is it 250 plus even in our closed family Facebook group. There have to be probably 100 families. Now, obviously, many of these children have passed, but all of that information about those children is so important. We want everybody to participate. So if we could even get 1/5 of our families to get on and do those basic steps of getting registered, filling in the 3 basic surveys, uploading their genetic reports by the end of the year, I think that would be incredible. And it's, we know it's not easy. We're all time poor parents, but let's do this for our children.
Thank you. We did have another question, but you answered it. It was about whether families could go on and kind of get some, summary data that was anonymous, and you answered that. So thank you for doing that for us. All right. Well, I think I have a much better understanding now for what happens and the steps folks will need to take. And we do really look forward to hosting these one-on-one sessions. So please reach out and we'll get that scheduled as soon as you're ready.
I hope that you'll agree that this has been a really interesting series of talks today in our first ever SGS Family Conference. Our last session of the conference is an update on the Foundation's strategic plan for the next 12 months, and we'll give you an overview of our plans for research, raising awareness, and how we plan to support families moving forwards. We'll talk to you about ways that you can get involved so that together we can make all of these exciting projects a reality and build a brighter future for our children together. Thank you.